I'd like to walk you through some of the links on Blackboard. This first walkthrough will be with the ICD-10-CM links. So this is the announcements page. We can find most of the materials under course documents. I apologize for the order of this section. I keep trying to reorder it and it keeps putting it back into the same order. So just get used to the order that it's in. Right now I would like to look at the ICD-10-CM folder. So this will give you the resources I've linked from the CMS website. The PowerPoints are going to be these presentations, of course, along with PowerPoint slides. So this folder, we have official guidelines up at the top, and these are also referenced in the syllabus. We also have a few different tables and indices. So I'd like to open up each one and just talk about what they are and when we're going to use them and why you need them. So the official guidelines, rather than having you buy a book, this really is what we're talking about in this class. So if you want to print it out, you're welcome to. I've tried to reference which guidelines we'll be looking at which week. And so when I talk about section 1A, conventions, that's going to be week 1. Week 1 we cover most of it other than section 1C, and then here you see we get into chapter specific coding guidelines, and then it breaks down. Section 1C1 is chapter 1, infectious parasitic diseases. So the first week we'll go through chapter 5, which is mental, behavioral, and neurodevelopmental disorders. Then we'll get into chapters 6 through 14 in the second week, and then in the third week we'll be looking at the rest of CM, which is chapters 15 through 21. So these are the guidelines you need to be reading. This is what I will be talking about in the PowerPoint slides. This is what you can reference for doing any sort of the activities or quizzes or anything like that. And you'll notice this does open in a new window. It is in a PDF document, so you should be able to just save it straight to your desktop if you'd like, or you can just always have this extra window open. So going back to our folder here, next we have our indices. So those of you familiar with ICD-9, these probably, hopefully look really familiar to you. They are all the same tables and indices we had in ICD-9. For those of you not familiar, we will be looking the majority of the time at the index, which is used similar to a dictionary, where you look up words to find codes, and then those codes can be referenced in this tabular section. In certain chapters, so chapter 2 is neoplasms, we'll be looking at the neoplasm table, and then chapter 19 gets into adverse effects and poisonings, we'll be looking at the drug table, and chapter 20 is talking about external cause codes, which can be found here. So I'd like to just open those and look at those and kind of give you an idea how to navigate those. So the index is typically where you will start. Again, this is a PDF document. As you can see at the top, if you want to load that to your computer, to your desktop, that's fine. It does have hyperlinks in it. So let's say we want to look up hypertension. So I can go to H here. Now, aside from the hyperlinks, it's not overly user-friendly. It is essentially, like I said, a dictionary, and think about if you physically had this, you would be flipping through pages. We're just going to electronically flip through. Now, right now I'm using the scroll button on my mouse. You can do that. You can use the page down function. The other thing you can do is use the search function, which I just picked F3 on my keyboard, and I'm going to type in hypertension. Now, hypertension is one that's going to appear several times throughout the document. So you can see here it started at the top of the document. We're in the section for A, and it's picked hypertension. Now see, there's a hypertension here, one here, one here. There's 121 occurrences. So for something like hypertension, this might not be the best route to take, but what you can do here with these little arrows is this arrow will go to the next occurrence of hypertension, etc. So you can go ahead and just arrow down until you get to the H's. I'm actually going to go back to the top of my document and hyperlink down to H, and then I'm just going to page down until I get to HY. And I'm a fairly fast scroller. I'm on the computer a lot. If you're not this fast, don't worry about it. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to find codes, and that's okay. So I'm looking for hypertension. Here we go. So here's hypertension. Again, your main terms appear in bold flush left. Hypertensive would get us through the same main term. And here we see all of our subterms. If I just had hypertension as my only word that I'm given, basically we just get this code right here, I-10. So I don't recommend memorizing codes, but those of us that know ICD-9, pretty much I think all of us know that 401.9 was the basic hypertension code. Well, it's pretty darn easy to memorize that same code in ICD-10. It's just I-10. I, the number 1, and the number 0. So that would be a category, and if that's all the information we had, we wouldn't need any additional digit after that. So that's the index. That gives you a basic idea how to navigate it. I will be providing some additional videos on navigating some of the practice questions that I have. Alright, again, this opens in a new window, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. And then the tabular looks very similar. Again, it's in PDF format. It again has hyperlinks. So let's say we went to the index, we got our I-10 code, now I want to go to the tabular and see what that looks like. So it's going to fall under diseases of the circulatory system, and here you can see these are categories I00 to I99. So I'm going to click on that. This does give us some subsections, which is kind of nice again for navigating. So again, I'm looking for I-10. It appears right here, hypertensive disease, so I'm going to click that link. And again, it takes us to the page, so you might have to scroll down a little bit. So here I'm in hypertensive diseases, the section. I do get some of the notes and some excludes notes, things like that. And then here's I-10. So essential or primary hypertension, it includes just kind of a generic high blood pressure, or, you know, benign hypertension, essential hypertension, malignant hypertension, primary, all of those are all included in this. You'll notice that there are no additional digits available. There's no I-10.0, I-10.1, anything like that. So basically I-10 is your code, and you're done there. So again, that's kind of navigating the tabular. Again, if you choose that F3, you could type in a code and navigate from there. Again, it's going to pull up every occurrence. You'll see I-10 appears 7 times, so you could navigate through those in a similar fashion. I'm going to close this window. The other 3, I'm not going to actually walk through a demonstration until we get to those chapters, but I want to show you what those look like. In Chapter 2, we'll be looking at the neoplasm table. Basically, you have neoplasm as your main term, and then you're looking for whatever site that is. And then again, those of you familiar with ICD-9, you'll see the same columns we've had before. So once I get the site of the neoplasm, let's say it's the abdominal cavity, I can choose, is it a primary malignancy, secondary malignancy, is it in situ, is it benign, is the physician uncertain of the behavior, or do we not know as coders because it wasn't documented. So very similar setup to ICD-9 in terms of that table. I'm going to close this. When we get to Chapter 19, we'll be looking at the table of drugs and chemicals. Again, very similar to ICD-9. This one we get your substance in that left-hand column, and then here we're looking at intent. Was it an accidental poisoning, an intentional poisoning? Was it an assault? Was it a poisoning but we're not exactly sure the circumstances? Was it an adverse effect, or was it underdosing? Again, for those of you familiar with 9, this should look very similar, other than I know the codes look different. Those of you not familiar, this is probably foreign language. We'll get to this when we talk about Chapter 19. I'm going to close this one, and we'll look at the last index we have here. So E code is for the external causes. I tend to call them E-codes. They're actually not E-codes anymore. That's old habit with ICD-9. But the external causes of injuries, so this is a separate index so that we can code those. You'll see that we get a lot of V, W, and there's a T here, there's an X code. So those of us familiar with 9, we can't really call these E-codes anymore, unfortunately. But this is the index we'll be using when we get to Chapter 20 to look up those external causes and get codes for those. Alright, I'm going to close this out, and that was just a quick overview of this section. We'll be revisiting a lot of this stuff as we continue.